Oh, look.
It's JJ's big truck.
And then these pictures is
Is it really?
to cut out of the middle. Like the fireman on the front page.
Look at it.
Oh, he's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Turn the pages. Open the book. Look, there's JJ doing something else. He's like, whoa.
Okay, I'll get the drill out.
Christmas. Oh my. You got power tools set. Let me teach your baby out. Have those scissors?
Mm-hmm.
Your baby? Okay.
Hannah, look. What's all the surprises about? Do you know? Hannah? Why'd you get all the surprises? You don't know?
No,
Oh.
Christmas.
what surprise?
Say, I ain't got no idea.
Put your baby in their stroller.
That's for mommy, right.
Oh wait.
Mine's for mommy.
Big Mac, chicken nuggets,
Are those
hot
things to eat?
eggs. Well, yeah, but artificial.
Oh.
Here's all the things that's in
Nana,
there.
here's your baby.
French fries, everything in here.
Okay, Grandma. So I'm gonna ask you, just go back as far back as you can, as far as when you were born, where you were born.
Oh, well, of course, I don't remember where.
You know where.
In Sydney, Ohio, I guess. Nobody ever told me, so I took it. That's where I lived, Sydney, Ohio. But the first thing I remember about when I was really young, see, now, my brother Jerry was 2 years younger than me, and I can remember my mother laying in a bed and some neighbor holding me up and me getting a spanking for something I did. Of course, you know, she was in the bed. I didn't get much of a spanking, but I was 2.
Wow.
And he was just a baby in the bed.
What year was that?
Well, I was born 1918, so it must have been 1920.
Wow.
See, now then, you know, all babies were born at home. Everybody I knew. I can remember when some of the other kids were born, my mother would say, now you take the kids and go next door to Amelia's. That was Mrs. Williams, who was her cousin. The houses were just real close. And call the doctor and tell him it's a maternity case. And then you stay there till we tell you to come back home. And I think that's why everybody thought, all the kids thought the baby came in the doctor's satchel, because when they left home there wasn't any baby. The doctor came with his satchel, and when they come home there was the baby. So, but I can remember that for the first thing, I think. So it's pretty good for 2 years old. Then I can remember we lived in Van Wert County, in Van Wert, Ohio. We lived out in the country, and my father worked at a little mill, gravel, where gravel would, I remember a whistle used to blow and the gravel would come down the chute. And he used to catch, you know, what they call things that look like little lobsters, but we called them crawdads. And he would bring home buckets of crawdad tails. That's the only thing you eat of those. Those things cost $2 and $3 a pound. Well, $3 and $4 a pound. And all you can eat of them is the tail. So my mother would shell the tails, take that, you've seen crawdads, haven't you? Mm-hmm. Take the tail off, and then it would curl, and she would fry them in a skillet. Now, I don't know what she used, what she dipped them in or anything, but he would bring them home with a bucket full because there was a creek, you know, around the mill where he worked. And then I remember one time we used to drive a horse and buggy. My mother drove the horse and buggy, and he got scared. We were going to town, and he got scared of some clothes flapping on the line, and he ran away with us, and there we were with a runaway horse and a buggy. I don't know how we stopped or who rescued us. And I can remember going to Sunday school. There was only one other family, black family in this, lived out there in the country. So we all went to the same church, and I can remember the little red chairs that we sat in. That family was named Harger. And there was some Hargers in Sydney too. It must have been relation to theirs when we got back there. When we left Van Wert County, I don't have the least idea. But I do remember the horse running away and getting a spanking when I was 2. So when we got back, I think we just had the 2 kids, me and Jerry. His name was Gerald Dale Brown. Howard's name was Howard Dean Brown. Tom's name was Tom. I don't know what Tom's middle name was. But there were 6 of us.
So you were
I was the oldest.
You were the oldest.
I think my mother had, her first child was stillborn. And she was born in 1900, so she must have been very young. We've often wondered how old she was when she got married. But then she was born in 1900 in June, and I was born 1918 in April. So she couldn't have been very old if she had already had a stillborn child. And I don't know, she told me that both her parents were dead by the time she was 8. But I don't know where she lived in between the time she was 8 and when she went to work for a family and lived with them, I guess, whose name was Good.
What was your mother's name?
Ruby Pearl Clark Brown.
And your father?
His name was George Washington Brown Jr., but he changed it. He said he wasn't going to be no George Washington, so he changed it to George Walter, I think. We told him, well, Dad, you couldn't do that. You have to go to the courthouse. And it didn't bother him. He still was George Walter. He was no longer George Washington Brown Jr. So, let's see now. I'm not quite sure. I think Howard was the next child. And I remember her telling me to go next door and call the doctor. Howard weighed 12 pounds when he was born.
He weighed 12 pounds?
12 pounds, home delivery. And then Betty was next. Betty Ann. I don't think her name was Elizabeth. It could have been, but it's always been just Betty. Betty Ann. And then Tom. I can't think of his middle name. And then Patricia Louise. She's 15 years younger than me, and I can remember thinking, I don't know how the table's full. There won't be any room for the babies at the table. Oh, there was one other girl in between. I don't know who she was in between. Maybe Jerry and Howard. Her name was Florence. Now, you know, when we were kids, if you had scarlet fever or chicken pox or those things, they put cards on your house. And if your father wasn't there when the sign was put on there, if he went in, he had to stay there. But if he was out, you know, he could go on to work, but he couldn't come in the house. And so our cousins had measles. And you know, measles can be fatal to babies. And Florence was 7 months old. She got pneumonia and she died from them not putting a sign on their house because they'd come in and out our house and they had measles, but they didn't want signs. They would never report. Your doctor was supposed to report, and then you get a sign on their house. Then your father couldn't come home, but they didn't want that, so they didn't report it. And she died, 7 months old. But I'm not sure where she came in between. Maybe Howard and Betty, or Betty and Pat. But see, I asked my mother once. See, now there'd be 2 children with 2 years in between, and then 4 years, and then another child and 2 years in between, and then 4 years between. I said, Mom, did you plan that? She says, heavens no. It just happened. But that's the way it was with us. And I can remember one day, or it was day or evening, we were sitting at the table, and a bolt of lightning came in the window, and it hit on the glasses. Ting, 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 all around the table, then right back out the window. Scared us about to death. But that's the way it did.
I remember when I was a kid, you told me a story about one of your brothers set the roof on fire.
With Howard, you'd throw firecrackers up in the air, and he threw them above the house. Well, of course, the sparklers and things like that, and it set the house on fire. And then another thing one time happened, we were kids, and we would see our dad start the fire with coal oil. Well, the fire was low, but there was fire in there. So,
hold on 1 second, Grandma.
Gotta go to bed. He decided he would start the fire again. Well, so he threw the coal oil in the fire. Well, there was coals down underneath there. So he wondered why it didn't start, and he opened had living room fires, and he stuck his face down there, exploded in his face, burned his face. Didn't make no bad scars. But see, he didn't know that when Dad started the fire, he didn't have no fire down under there, but this was the coals that burned down. Then one time, Tom and Pat, we used to take a little pink pill, a tiny little pill for laxative. And they were kind of sweet tasting, so Betty and Pat and Tom ate that whole bottle of pills. So of course they got diarrhea. And then because Jerry and I were older, Mom said we should have watched them better, so we had to clean them up. Now we had just a 5-room house. It wasn't a big one where we live now. It was over on Carey Street. And we had 2 bedrooms. Now there were 4 kids, 5 kids, and we all slept, the boys in one bed and the girls in the other. And I slept, after a while, after I got older, I could sleep out on the Davenport in the living room. We took a bath in a tin tub, you just sit on the edge and wash in the tin tub. And I remember one time I was in back of the stove in the winter, and I got a burn. I think it was on my arm from getting up against the stove from here to here, just a big burn. But of course, that was just one of the things that happened. But if you can imagine trying this in your size, trying to sit on the edge of a tub and get once a week, took a bath on Saturday night. We washed up every day. So my dad, we didn't have any running water in the house, and there was a spring not too far, not as far as that house over there, where water came out of a pipe. We really didn't know where it came from, but he said it was good water. So we'd get that in a bucket to drink, and then he put a bathtub, the kind like I had in my house with the legs, up on a platform, and enough room, not too high, but enough room so we could put a pan to drain the water, and we'd boil water and put it in the tub, and then drain it and dump it outdoors. So we had a tub to take a bath in, no more tin tub. Let's see, what else?
Okay, so many times you told me that if you guys could have just had a certain amount of money every week or every month, you could have went to college.
Yeah, well, that was quite a while, you know, after a lot of things happened before that. I remember we got our first radio. It was a Crosley.
What year was that?
Well, I don't know exactly what the year was.
Remember how?
It cost, I think, probably all I can think of my mind is $1.98, but it must have been more than that. But we paid, I think, you pay something like $1 a week, you know, and we had our radio. We listened to, what is that place in Kentucky where they used to have music all the time?
Louisville? Louisville?
No, it had Lum and Abner and all them people.
Bluegrass?
No, it's an old place. Anyway, I don't remember exactly what it was, but we listened to that before we went to school all the time. And what was it you asked me?
Well, no, just keep going. 'Cause I went way ahead.
I don't know. See, our radio, we had a radio. I bet it cost maybe $20, $19.99, and we didn't have to pay hardly anything a week. But we had it. And I see then, you know, everybody had bed bugs. You ever heard your mother talk about bed bugs, Sharon? Well, everybody had bed bugs. I don't know where they came from, but they just disappeared. So when it came house clean time, you'd take your springs and your mattress outdoors, and you'd spray the mattress down in the creases, you know, where the buttons go, and your beds, you'd take, I think, seemed like Dad had a blowtorch, and he'd kill. But everybody had bed bugs, but I haven't heard of bed bugs in years. I don't know where they came from.
Were bed bugs like fleas?
Oh no, they're a little more like a cellar bug. You ever seen a cellar bug when you touch them, they curl up in a ball?
Like, I think we call those pill bugs.
Could be. They were more that size.
They were big.
They're
So you could see 'em.
not very big, but that's about the size of them, and they bit. They bite you. Now Jerry, since he's been grown, he went to a hotel one time and woke up with red spots all over him. There were bed bugs on his bed. So, I'm not. No, where was I? Bed bugs.
Yeah, you guys had just got your first radio.
Yeah, radio. We got that. Well, we didn't get television for years, but we never had television in our house. But we had record player and
Who would you listen to on the record player?
Oh, I don't know. How would I remember? It was a grind, you know. You cranked it. I don't know. I don't remember what we had back in 1918. I remember when I went to my first grown-up dance. I was 16 and I borrowed a dress from somebody else because I didn't have any party clothes, you know. But I remember from Lucille, I borrowed this, I can't think of it, borrowed this dress, and oh boy, it had a kind of like the handkerchief skirts of kids that girls wear now sometime, and was sheer and had a slip made right with it. We went to that dance. We didn't have to have a boyfriend, you know, go to dance, just dance with anybody. That was my first dance. Then one time we were going to go to see Joe Louis fight in Chicago. And we had one car, and it was just a convertible. And I don't know, we were going to have the rumble seat full, and 3 people in the seat and 3 people in the rumble seat. And then somehow, I guess Mom said I couldn't go. So the rest of them went, and they got there to Chicago, and they were walking down the aisle, and the fight was over. Joe Louis hit the man 1 punch and won. So they went all the way to Chicago and didn't even get to see the fight. They just, the 1 punch, that's the way Joe Louis used to fight, you know. We used to listen. The fights were a lot more exciting when you listen on the radio, because you know they called every punch, and when the first time I saw one on television, I thought, shoot, that wasn't exciting at all. One time we used to go over to somebody, Uncle John and Aunt Dora, that lived on Cary Street, not far from us. All the kids would go over there to listen to the fights. And one time there were so many of us on the porch that the porch collapsed. The floor of the porch just broke. Because there were so many of us standing listening outdoors to the fight on the radio. And when we were kids, you could buy the words to all the songs on a song sheet every week. The new songs, the words to all the songs would come out. So we knew the words to all the songs. And the ones that didn't come out on the sheet, there was one girl took shorthand and she would write the words. So we learned the words to all the songs. And I'm trying to think that song that we had a hard time learning. Hip hip diddum dottum wadum choo and it swam. Three Little Fitties. You ever heard that? Down in the meadow in the itty bitty pool, Sam, 3 little fitties and a fitty face. And we couldn't learn it. We couldn't learn those because, you know, that was a funny thing till she wrote them finally. That was 3 little fishes, 3 little fitties. Oop, you know, that ip, ip, diddum, dottum, wadum, chew, we couldn't get the words out. You just don't know. We knew the words to all the songs with the song sheet and the words that Lucille could write, you know, so we knew the words to all the songs. Now that's the kind of songs. Now that was one song I remember, didn't I? From, what were some of the other ones? But I hear them sometime on WLEC because they play all the old songs. The Mills Brothers were, the youngest Mills brother was 1 year older than me. The older ones were same around the age of my dad, and they used to come to Sydney. They lived in Pickaway, Ohio. And they used to come to Sydney to play ball out in that big field, the playground that used to be there. And with Dad and Leo Bolden, Aunt Helen's son. I don't think you knew Aunt Helen, but you knew her kids that go to the reunions. And I knew all them. And when they start singing, they got a guitar out of the catalog, you know, from a Sears catalog, guess Sears. And they made all their other instrument sounds with their hands, you know, the bugles and stuff. And they sang. Donald was the youngest, and he sang most of the lyrics. The others did sound effects. Then when John, the older brother, died, the father went in his place, and then till he died. And I think now there's none of the original ones left. We hear Mills Brothers. You've heard of the Mills Brothers? Mm-hmm. Well, they're sons. The sons of the original Mills Brothers sang for a while, and not about. Oh, this summer, the Mills Brothers were in one of the small towns not too far from Sandusky, and I wanted to go, but I had the wrong time, and I didn't get to go. But the man I called, the man on the radio station said it was a real good program. He had the one living Mills brother, and I think it was the son, you know, the original group. And one man of one of the other groups, and he said they were real good. They sang the Mills Brothers songs. But we hear them on the radio all the time, because that's what I listen to till noon, radio. Of course, this week is all Christmas music, you know. Well, let's see, where was I? Reminiscing, falling through the porch, watching watching the boxing. But you never probably heard boxing on the radio, but it's much more exciting. Joe, it's on. We listen to all them, and they were real thrilling, but nothing to them now. Not as far as I'm concerned. I don't even watch boxing anymore. But some in the sports or people, some of them are so weird anyway.
Okay, let's we'll come back. Let's move forward a little bit. Okay, when did you meet my grandfather?
Well, the first time I met him, It's when I was 12.
What's his name?
Paul James Garrett Sr.
Okay.
And his father, well, no, not his father. See, Paul's mother died when he was 2. And his father died, married again, and he died when he was about 8, or maybe a little younger. And we didn't know it when we moved to Sandusky that your step grandmother was still living, but Mrs. McMurray didn't know that that we didn't know the lady was still living. But somehow or other, Uncle Jim and Aunt Bibby, as they called her, Aunt Alberta, didn't keep in touch with her. So, see, when my father, when my grandfather, when I married Paul, well, what were we talking about when I met him? I used to always go to the conventions, Sunday school conventions. And we went to a place called Russia, spelled like Russia. I don't even know where that is.
It's in Ohio.
That's where the convention was. And Paul was 13 and he sang. He had a real good voice. He could sing. And I heard him sing. But that was the one and only first time I ever saw him. And then one time when I must have been 22, I was still going to conventions. That was a good time to take vacations. They would be Thursday, Friday. Well, we'd leave on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I met him again then. I can remember we went with a lady called Mrs. Ingram. And we saw him walking along, and he was a good-looking man. And we said, "Oh, who's that?" And she said, "Oh, I know him. That's Paul Garrett." And she called him, and I thought, shoot, I'm not meeting no boy like this, man like this. So I went out. The rest of them all got to meet him. But that evening, he came to the session, and I met him. And then we were together all during that convention. Every time he was working at, he was going to Ohio State and working someplace. And he had a convertible. And that evening he asked me and the other 2 girls, was there one other girl who was with us from Sydney, and he took us a ride. And then next day he was there, and I sat with him, and I was with him all that time. You know how conventions are. You don't be with them, because we stayed. The people in the city where we were gave us rooms to stay. We didn't have to pay for room board. Then next year, the convention was in Cleveland, and he was working in the tower, in the terminal tower, and he was there at the convention again. So we got together again, and then I stayed over on Sunday because I stayed during the convention at the other Browns, Harrison and Arnett and Bob and all them that you met in conventions, and our reunions, they lived there. And Marjorie was their sister, so I was going to spend the rest of the weekend after the convention was over with her. And Paul came over and we went to one of the churches. That was the first time I ever went to a place where women stripped, He took me there and we went in this place. He didn't tell me where we were going. And we sat up right around this platform. And pretty soon this girl came out there. Oh, I was so embarrassed. And he laughed at me. But she didn't strip all the way, but she practiced. To me, she looked like she did. But that's the first time I ever went to a strip club and somebody coming to the door.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Yeah, you keep going.
Now let's see, where were we? Oh,
you were at the strip club with my grandpa.
Well, that was just one. I don't know why he just laughed at me for being, embarrassed. But then we went. I think I must stay part of the week next week.
Keep on going.
Oh.
I'll be back.
So I had. Why don't you turn it off?
No, keep going. I'll be right back.
Well, I don't remember nothing. Well, then for the first thing I knew, I was getting a letter saying he was in the service. And he wanted me to come visit him. You can't talk or nothing. So I went and visited him in Tuskegee, Alabama. I don't drink much water.
Just in case you need it.
You need it.
Oh, I haven't taken my pills. Good thing I brought it, because I forgot yesterday.
Okay, you know what? Here, let's stop. Stop for me. Go ahead.
Oh, you ready? Oh. Well, after the convention was over and he wrote me a letter and said he was gone into service. Or maybe he wrote me a letter and said he was in. Anyway, he wanted me to come down and visit him. So I went and visited him. I think that was September. And I stayed a week. And then the last day of his, that's when they closed the Air Force to the black, they decided they had enough black pilots. And just his class was going to go in to get their flight training is when they did that. And they broke them all down to different kind of jobs. And he was sent to Florida. And so after a while I went back home. Let's see. Was Paul born yet? September. Paul's birthday's. When is Paul's birthday? Forget. You remember when Paul's birthday?
It's in July. July 6th or 7th.
No, their dad called. His birthday's
Oh.
June 4th or 5th.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's George's.
But his dad's birthday's the same week.
Yeah, it's George's. But
Yeah.
not Paul's.
Paul, my uncle, or Paul, my grandfather?
Paul, your uncle.
Oh,
This
his
is
birthday's July 6th
July
or
6th or
7th.
No, that's right. I couldn't even, isn't that awful? Couldn't even remember that. Paul's is the 6th and Jerry's is 7th. So, what were we doing there? What were we talking about? Oh, I went down to visit him, and the very last day, before he was sent to Florida, we went to what's the capital of Alabama?
Tuscaloosa. No. What am I saying?
It starts with, this place where we went starts with the M. Montgomery. We went to Montgomery, and I thought that was so foolish. Now, the servicemen are the one that have to keep in good health. He had to have a physical, and I didn't. So that don't look like they take very good care of their soldiers, does it? But
He had to have a physical, or you had to have.
Paul had to have a physical.
Oh, okay.
And they know about his, shape when he's in the service. So we got married on that very last day. No, we got the license. And then we went back to Tuskegee, and some minister married us. And then the chaplain said, well, why didn't you come to me? I would have done it, but I didn't even think of that. So then he left for Florida. I didn't see him anymore. I think they didn't leave for a couple days, but I didn't get to see him anymore. And then I went back home.
Went back to Sydney.
Yeah. Then he would come visit. I always forget where it's Sarasota or Saratoga. Saratoga's in Florida, isn't it?
Sarasota's in Florida as well.
No, one of them is. One's in New York and one's in Florida. But he was in Florida. And whenever he could get a flight into Cincinnati, he would come back and visit us. So, they didn't have any seats or anything, but he could get, then he would take a bus to come back. Wasn't very often, but he did come back.
So what year did you get married to me?
Did I get married? Must have been 42. Paul was born in 43. Paul was born in 40, wait a minute. Jerry was born in 46. Paul was born in 44, so I was married in 43. And George was born in 49. And he didn't see Paul till after he was born. He didn't see Jerry till after he was born. The only one he was there when he was born was George. Because he always, I'd have to. Now I remember when when he was there to visit. And I thought I needed a laxative because I was having a little stomachache. So I took one. And my mother said, you know, I was sitting there and I must have been making funny face. She said, what are you doing? I said, oh, nothing. I got kind of stomachache. I said, I needed a laxative, so I took one. And it wasn't, I needed a laxative. It was, what do you call that?
Labor pain.
Labor pains. But it wasn't, you know, people told me that was terrible pain. It didn't hurt. It just felt like you needed a little laxative. And she would watch me, you know, and it was getting a little more frequent and stuff. And she didn't say anything to me. She said, well, I think we better go to the hospital and call the doctor. So I went up there, and it still wasn't nothing. I said, well, Mom, you might as well go home. There's nothing going on. And she says she didn't think she ought to. And I think he was born about 5 o'clock in the morning. But I didn't think that was, then it wasn't anything like people told me.
Yeah.
You know, about, all that pain, all that stuff. I thought, shoot, they must be crazy. It don't feel like that. It didn't, not to me. Just felt like stomachache. You need a laxative, you know. He said, Mom said, you did? I said, well, yeah. I didn't know. My mother didn't tell you anything, you know, nothing what it was going to be like, anything. She was bad, shy lady, and she didn't tell you those things. But she could see somebody walking way off, and she's expecting. That's how you know. By the way she walks. And she was usually always right. See, my mother died when she was 54 years old. And see, Dad was not quite 65. I don't know anybody. I think Uncle Sam, did you ever meet Uncle Sam? I think he might, I meant to ask Jerry. He might have been 90, or maybe 92. And Aunt Addie, I think, was in her 80s, but nobody else has lived that long in our family, because Mom and Dad were not, you know, I didn't have any age. 65 and 54. 54 is very young. So, of course, you knew my mother was Mother of the Year of Ohio, didn't you? You didn't know that?
No. When was that?
1954. She was Mother of the Year of the state of Ohio. And we got a little book. I'll have to let you see that sometime. Tells about it. And my brothers wrote, when they went away to service, when they come back, they couldn't get a job. And they wrote to the newspaper, and all their friends wrote into the newspaper and told them they thought it was terrible. They couldn't get those boys been in and served for in the army and everything, and then they can't get no jobs. They were very disappointed in their town. So Tom got a job in the post office. See, what did Howard got a job on the school board or something? But Tom didn't want to be superintendent, but Howard served as superintendent of the post office. But Tom worked, and when he died, I think he had more years service than anybody his age in the post office, 40-some years. But he didn't want to be a superintendent, but Howard was superintendent for a good many years. Oh, I was talking about when I got married, wasn't I? I kind of skipped around. That's all I told you. I got married to that. Then a whole month that I quit my job and got all packed up, and I went back to Tuskegee in October. It was a month. I was gone a whole month getting ready, packing all the stuff. And then I got a job in the PX at Tuskegee. And it was just a little PX, and that man didn't really know that when we have men would graduate in the Air Force, well, they wanted to look sharp. And he didn't buy enough, dressy clothes. They'd come in there and buy, they call them pinks and what they call the other greens, the clothes that they wore, and they buy their caps, and they had to break them down, so they'd be not sloppy, And but he didn't buy enough clothes really for them. There's DJ. But we couldn't convince him that he wasn't buying fancy enough clothes. They had some money, they wanted to spend it on clothes. Now my brother, when he was in the service, I guess I didn't tell you that in the 40s, when they finally opened the Air Force to black, they at first they had to be a college graduate to go into the service. Well, they didn't accept any black soldiers. So soon as they opened the Air Force to black college students, the whole football team from Morris Brown College joined the service, Air Force. And my father, somebody read it in the Plain Dealer, we didn't know that, and showed us where the whole football team, that coach about died. And the planes they flew were the pursuit planes, and they're one-seaters. And most of those boys were too big for those planes, so they ended up doing different kind of things. So my brother was a drill sergeant, and he told me, he wrote once and told us that he had a lump on his leg, up on the front part of his thigh, and he said they took it off, but they didn't quite get all of the tumor. And he wrote in there, it's malignant. Now, we didn't know then what malignant meant. It was years afterwards we got that letter, and we read it and said, well, he had told us that his tumor was malignant, but then we didn't know what that meant. So when he got, it came back. They didn't quite get it all. And it came back, and one day he was drilling the field, men on the field, and he passed out, and it had migrated from his thigh to his lungs. So he got his honorable discharge. They sent him to Chicago, to that great big hospital. He said the corridors were a mile long. He had a mile of corridors. And he had some money under his pillow, and somebody stole his money. And but then he got to come home. And I think he went once, maybe another time, to a hospital. But he died from his cancer 3 days before he was 23 years old.
Wow.
Go ahead, Jerome, get ready. Finish up.
That's enough, isn't it?
No. You can talk to me.
But I don't know anything else. You have to ask me some questions.
Well, tell us about some things that happened early on, like when you moved to Sandusky. What brought you to Sandusky?
Well, when Paul got out of service, we decided that we were going to go to Cleveland. Mm-hmm. We never thought about going to Sandusky, but we were going to see. He had a, what is it when you take by mail career things?
Correspondence.
Yeah, he took massage,
Mm-hmm.
And he had customers there in Sydney, and then he wrote to Cleveland, to, I guess maybe to the football team, and asked them, if they would had any openings for somebody who would give that massage, because then one of the men, I guess, I think his name was Wright, that he went to school with, and he was the coach, and they didn't have a whole lot of coaches like they do now. So he went up there to be the trainer with the Sandusky football team, but that's not where we were going. We intended to go to Cleveland. But since he got the job, that's why we went to Sandusky. Now, when he first went there, he wouldn't he had clothes when he went to school, and he left them all at. Well, I don't think I ever told you how I got in to stay with Uncle Jim and Mr. and Mrs. Davis either, because now, you see, his parents were both dead by the time he was 8, and they sent him, the Aunt Vivi's family sent him to Indianapolis, where she had 2 sisters and their families, and they didn't want to keep him. And Aunt Laura would have kept him, but Uncle Ebe was those kind of man that jealous of kids. They never had any children, you know. I've heard of men like that, and I imagine you have too. So she couldn't keep him, so Mr. and Mrs. Davis had to take him. And I don't think that they really wanted him, but they told him that he had been adopted. So when he died, they didn't come to my house not one time after he was killed in that accident. Did I ever tell you? Didn't say about that. Tell you about that, did I? Well, see, he worked, when he got out of service, he decided that he would go back to school and finish his, he didn't have very many hours.
Excuse me for a minute, Miss Garrett. Excuse me, but you were telling us that how you got to Sandusky first. You were going, he was in the massage thing, and he wanted to go to Cleveland originally, but he didn't. He wanted to be for a football team and do that, and so he didn't get a job with that. So he went to, where did he go? Because he went to college eventually, didn't he? He got it before he really heard anything from Cleveland, and so he just decided to take it. And then he wanted to go back to school. And I thought that was terrible, that he would leave his family and go back to school. I remember I just had an absolute fit almost. You don't do those kind of things. And I cried, and he cried too, but he wanted to get his education. That was important in that day.
So he worked for the state. Every day he would take out the gravel and the road stuff, they use tar and that kind of stuff, to the state dump. It was not really a dump, but where they'd empty the stuff that they'd tested at the college. That was his first thing he did. And he went to school and he worked for the state like that. And one day he was taking a load of the stuff to be tested out to this place where they dumped it.
Now, he worked, when you guys got to Sandusky, he worked for someplace else first, right?
No.
He always worked for the state?
No. When he went to Sandusky, he'd pick up work. He would go, for instance, he went to the American Crayon and a couple places, and he had a contract for washing all their windows.
Oh, okay.
And not only that, he gave this massage to several people there in Sandusky, too. But then that's beside his job, with school. But then when they started getting more coaches and they didn't need a manager, well, then he had to get him some other job. So I don't know. I guess he did those little contract jobs. He was very ambitious. And then that's when he decided he'd go back to school. He could get with his service, he could get to go to school. And
so he went to school and worked for the state of Ohio, and was working the truck, the gravel truck.
He drove this truck, and this oil truck, some young man was driving this used oil truck, and he was turning into the place where he emptied the test of material, and this boy hit him and threw him out of the truck that he was driving, broke his back. And he died before he got to the hospital. He was 34.
Wow. And how old were the kids?
1, 3, and 5. Almost 1, almost 3, almost 5. It was 1950. I forget I think it was 1950. But see, he had been home the week before. It was July, because his birthday was the day he came home, would have made it Friday, and George's birthday was the next day, And then he left. He always leaves on Sunday, so he left on Sunday, so he'd be ready for school and work on Monday. So it must have been July
June the.
Let's see, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Second, third, no, fourth, fifth.
George's birthday's on the 3rd.
Okay, second, third. That would be Friday, Saturday, and he went back Sunday.
That's the 4th.
That would be the 4th, and they must have been killed on the 5th of July. I had the clipping, but I've lost it. I don't have it anymore. And he was killed in that accident. So then they put the state paid. We only had one 35-cent insurance policy. One, and because it was an accident, it paid double, but that wasn't much. But the state, I think, took care of the funeral expenses. I didn't have any funeral expenses. So then they said they would give me Social Security. Well, you know how much people get Social Security now. I got $25 for me and $19 apiece for each child. Now you can imagine what they get now, up in the hundreds. That's all the income I had. In Social Security.
So tell us about your some of the things that you've done over the years.
Well, I got a job working in the city. Remember the restroom? It used to be in the courthouse yard. That when you went down, I took care of that. And Charlie Lewis had the men's side, and I had the women's. So when Paul died, I must have been doing that when he went to school. And when Paul died, Charlie Lewis went down there and told him, well, I didn't need that job anymore because I got a whole lot of insurance from the Army, and we didn't get any at all because you had to pay on that. We didn't have enough money to pay it. He just told a lie. And he asked for the job for his wife, and he did that job for as long as it was there in Gladys's name, and she didn't even know that, and he kept all the money himself. And they told me down there finally what he had done. Now, and then he would grin at me, and I knew all that, and it was sure hard for me to grin at him back because I knew how he'd gone down there. And I didn't have any income. I really didn't. $25 and $19 a piece from all the kids from each child. That's all the income I had. Now, then the people at home told my mother that I could get whatever that is that they get for children who have only, don't have both parents. But I never put in for that. I never did. I just worked 1 or 2 jobs, whatever it took and we got along on that. And then the doctor didn't get hardly anything for Paul's death. I just can't believe that was only $125,000. And they took a third. I think he took more than that. Because if I remember right, each child had $5,000 and I had 8. With my 8, I bought a house. And then I had to be bonded so I had to keep track of every cent I spent for those kids for 2 or 3 years. Every cent. And at the end of the year, turn in the report. But I never put in for, I can't think what they call that. The state gave it to kids, who don't have parents.
ADC.
Yeah, I never did.
Dependent kids.
They told me I could have gotten it. Here they told me I couldn't. But my mother said, you tell her that she can put in for it in Sydney if she wants to. Oh, and of course my dad just thought that I would come home, and I said no. I told my mother I wanted to try it on my own to see if I could do it by myself. And I had to think about that, because then, you know, they didn't let the black kids use the pool. And that's the time when the people on Warren Street that run the Black Philco, when they got that changed, because I thought, no, I'm not sure I want them to go to a school that's that prejudice. And they also, around that time when we were here, the black boys, they wouldn't let them play football. They let them play out of town, but not in town, because the coaches didn't want, you know, the Gants used to be real famous, you know, around here, and they didn't want black people getting all the fame, so they wouldn't let them play. But then the man that Paul knew over to Stadium, he changed that. I can't think what his name was. He was coach, but he also had charge of the locker rooms. So he changed all that. He said they wanted to win and everybody should play. So things changed, so that's why I stayed here. I can't. I remember when it came time to go to the sign up for the little leagues and baseball, I'd be the only woman there. But now, of course, women go to all those things. But I'd be the only woman with my kids to play little league. I always told them they could play football if they wanted to, or any other sports if they wanted to, but that was up to them. But if they started, they couldn't just quit. They weren't going to be like that, so they never did. Jerry did once. He came home and told me that the coach had hit him, and I said, he hit you? And he said, yep. So, no, he didn't hit him. He threw a football at him and hit him. That's what hit him. And so I marched over there. They didn't like tell me stuff. And I told him why that Jerry told me he quit because he threw a ball and hit him. And I said, did you do that? And he said, yes, I did. And I made him tell me why. He got mad. Jerry used to like to take juice. He'd take a big thermos of juice and all that stuff, and they didn't want him to. And I guess they got in some words, and he threw the football at him. And he apologized. But then I didn't. Now, I don't know. Your kids played football. I know you, John, them did. And the coaches, you know, don't like to report when they're hurt. But my kids, if they got hurt, and the doctors, and the coach said they don't need to go to the doctor. If they were hurt for 3 days, my kids went to the doctor. Because I knew one boy that they had lived in MacArthur Park, and that boy, when the football season ended, he had 2 broken wrists, and he played football all season with 2 broken wrists. Now, I don't know what kind of parents that were that didn't notice that he couldn't do anything with his hands. But that's the way I did. If they went 3 days without being better, they went to the doctor. And not once did the doctor say anything about it to me. I wouldn't have cared if they did, because it wasn't going to be, I knew when they were hurting.
Well, let's go to a couple different questions. Like, what is your most memorable moment?
Oh, I don't think I had any. About what?
Just anything. What's your most memorable moment?
Oh.
Something that was really a lot of fun that is still near and dear to your heart.
I don't know. I can't remember any. The things that I did everything with my kids. We went every place. Like at Christmas time, we went to, that wasn't a memorial thing, but they went to see Mr. Jingling and those people at Cleveland stores at Christmas time. And we went to those places where they, you know, have guests and all them gardens made out. You know, we went to those.
The Home and Garden Show every year.
Home and Garden shows. Now, Jerry's 2 famous favorite people were Johnny wait a minute, what was his name? Johnny with Philip Morris. And we saw him one time down to the tobacco store. And Von Monroe, who he called Bon Monroe. Mm-hmm. And one of the home garden shows, he got to see Von Monroe. And then one time, they were down to the drugstore on the corner, and Mr. Zero, they used to make a candy bar out of white chocolate, and he was down there, and I think I still have that picture when they were 8 or 9 with Mr. Zero with a whole bunch of kids down there. He was a dwarf.
Oh.
I don't know whether I had any most memorial times. What there was to do, I just did it, and it didn't seem like to me I was doing anything special. What has to be done, you do, That's all there is to it.
Yeah. Now, what's some of your favorite colors?
Colors? Pink.
Pink is your favorite?
Pink is my favorite color.
Uh-huh.
All shades of pink.
All shades of pink.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. And then, what's your favorite flower?
Well, for a scent, it's a lilac, but for beauty, it's a rose.
Wow. Yeah, those are nice, aren't they?
I used to always have a garden until I couldn't chop anymore with my shortness of breath. But I had a garden, I'd plant it, and I did real good till it come the weeding time.
Yeah. Now, what's your favorite food?
My favorite food? I don't know, maybe spaghetti.
Spaghetti?
I don't know. I like spaghetti. I like spaghetti, chili, and all those things.
Now, what's your favorite restaurant? Or it doesn't have to be something that's...
Ponderosa.
Ponderosa? That's your favorite restaurant of all time?
Yeah.
Now, tell us why Ponderosa is your most favorite.
Because you can go to Ponderosa by yourself, and most always I used to go by myself to the restaurants. You can take a book and sit there as long as you want, and they don't act like they care. But you can sit there and read your book after you're through eating, and just stay as long as you want, and they don't say nothing about it. But all restaurants you can't go very much by yourself, but you can to the Ponderosa, or you could when I was doing that. Of course, it's different now with Jerry there, I don't have to worry about that, but I did. But it was a Ponderosa.
Oh, okay. And so you have how many children? 3?
How many? 3.
3 children, and then how many grandchildren do you have?
Well, 9, counting Elizabeth.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, grandchildren, 6, 7. Wait a minute. Grandchildren. You're 3, 5, 6. Victor, count Victor.
And then you have several great-grandchildren.
I got 9.
9 great.
Counting Elizabeth.
Oh, okay.
So 9.
Wow. So you
Because
really...
see, Victor's got 3, all boys, and Keisha has a boy, and you have 4, and Victor. Well, I said Victor had 3, didn't I? But there's 9.
Okay. Wow, that's a lot of kids, isn't it?
See, you got more than 4. You got 5, counting Elizabeth. I guess I've quit saying counting Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Because she told me that her name was, whatever that is, Winshire or something, hyphenated Garrett. She told me that, Elizabeth. Well, when I went to get the bonds, I asked, Judy called to say she wanted us to come to dinner, and she said that's the way it is. And she calls Eric Daddy. And she always has liked him, hasn't she?
Yeah. She likes you, too. Remember the first time you met her?
Oh, smartest little girl ever did. 4 years old she was then. And she talked all the way home. Could answer any kind of question, couldn't she?
Yeah.
And she and Michaela favor too, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Quite a bit. Now, what's your favorite vacation spot?
I don't favorite. Been a lot of places. There one year we traveled a lot. Let's see. I don't know. We spent the longest time in Italy, 14 days that tour was. But I've been to Hawaii 2 or 3 times. That's nice. And I've been on 3 cruises. I don't know. I don't know whether I have a special one. I would like to go to Alaska.
Oh, you like those Alaskan cruises?
I've never been on one. But it's just that the walking part I couldn't do anymore. You know, nowadays, when you go on a cruise, they always have the bus will take you places and then you walk, and I can't do that anymore. So, but I thought I'd like to go to Alaska.
Those are
But I don't know whether I have a favorite. I've enjoyed wherever we went. Only when we went to Italy, I had to choose of going to see the Pope or going to that Sistine Chapel. Sistine, is that right?
Sistine Chapel.
Sistine. But I think, I know, I'd seen the picture of him standing up there talking to the people, but I think I should have gone to the Sistine Chapel. Because he's so far away, he just looks almost the same size he does when you're watching television. And he rides through in that enclosed thing that he has enclosed since, he got shot at. But we did get to sit down because somebody from Sandusky got tickets for all our groups, so we got to sit down at least. And then, you're supposed to take something to be blessed. Well, I wondered how they were going to do that, but the only thing they did, he came out and they said, anything that you have to be blessed, hold it up, and then he just blessed the whole thing. That was blessed. I was disappointed in that. And I was disappointed that he only could see, there was all those people, you only could see maybe his head moving because the people were standing, mostly. But it was something, I guess, to be able to see him. But I don't know, maybe it would have been better to look up there and see those things that you just, this was something you just read about too, wasn't it? Or saw on television. I guess they've shown the Sistine Chapel on television, and I've seen it in pictures. But and then we also went to Blue Grotto or something in Italy, but we didn't climb up to one of the places. Places that you read about is great to go. But when I first went to Hawaii, I thought it was almost like going to Cedar Point because all they had was places selling stuff, That wasn't Hawaii. But then the second time we went on a small plane after we got there in Hawaii itself, and then we were scared because they'd been wrecking, been falling and getting wrecked, but ours didn't. People's luggage they don't have a place for you to go in and put your luggage, and people's luggage got wet and some of it leaked, and they lost their clothes and stuff. But I don't really, as I say, think I have a favorite place. Anything else you're going to ask me?
Give us some words of wisdom. Give us some words of wisdom. If you had to tell us to do 1 or 2 things, what would you tell your children and your grandchildren? Just some words of wisdom.
Well, I don't know. What I always did is like I mentioned once before. If you have something you have to do, just do it. And don't expect praise. I never did. I just felt, like taking care of your children by yourself with no husband. There wasn't anything you could do but do it. And I didn't think that required any praise. I mean, I never even thought about it as being extra. We had lots of fun doing things together. My brother had given me his car for the first car, and then I bought cars, and the man at the bank always got me my best deal. It took him a month or two sometime to buy me a car. He knew how much money I earned, how much I had to spend for a car, and he'd find me the best deal.
What was your favorite car?
My favorite car?
Uh-huh.
My Lincolns. But I couldn't really afford a screw on the Lincoln. If I could have the car I wanted, it would be a Lincoln.
A Lincoln.
Yeah.
You like that car?
Like them. I like big cars.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like little cars. They're too bouncy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I could have the car I wanted, it would be a Lincoln.
A Lincoln.
But I don't like the new ones as well as I did the old ones because they look just like every other car. I think if it's going to be a Cadillac or a Lincoln, it ought to have some distinction. You know, I mean, if you're going to buy that kind of car, I want to be able to know it's that kind of car.
Yeah.
I hope I never have to buy another one. I thought the other one I had was going to be my last car.
So you like your Lumina?
Yes, it's all right, but too many things are going wrong with it. Now, they quit making them, for sale, regular sale. They sell them for different things, but mine, there's too much stuff happens to it that, now like that's not thing. That thing mirror with the mirror on it, it just pulled right out of there. My ashtray, something broke. When I took it out and tried to put it in, something broke and I can't use that. And the cup, it has two cups, one holders, one here and one there. This one here just broke off. So maybe that's why they stopped making them I am going to go out there and still tell them that too. Because I had my car, by the time I was through with it, was as good as almost when I got it. But this thing's... I asked him the first year after I bought mine, they didn't make them anymore for just general sale. And I asked them why. Well, they got enough left over from last year, they don't have to make them. I should have known that was just the excuse. I just think they made them too fast and didn't make them good. Because things like that don't happen to your car. Mm-hmm. You had yours a whole year, it didn't happen that kind of stuff didn't happen. I've had mine more in 1 year. And it didn't happen to them, so I don't know. But I know I can't get any more. There. And we used to have a picture of his father, but I can't find it. His father was the only brown-skinned one in the whole family. Unless one of the sisters had died. Mm-hmm. But I do have... And I guess I told you that we found out afterwards, we'd been there in Sandusky a while, that his stepmother was living in Michigan, and the Davises never told us, but Junior, what's his name? Ernestine McMurray, Junior McMurray's mother, knew her. And we were talking one time, she says, why? She was still living when you came here. She came to Sandusky as a maid with some people from Cleveland, a maid, and took care of the kids. Mm-hmm. And she married Paul's father. And but they never even told him. But if they didn't told him a lie and said that they adopted him, told him, he thought he died thinking that they had adopted him, but they didn't change his name because he was the last Garrett. I told you when Howard and I went over there, and they said, well, Howard says, well, we came out to see if you had anything you wanted to put in the obituary, because Paul said that you had adopted him. And Mr. Davis said, who said we adopted him? He said, well, Paul did, because you told him that. We never adopted him. That's what he said. But they never came to my house, Sharon.
Did they come to the funeral?
Oh, yeah, but it's public. They didn't come to the house one time after Paul died. Now, you know, that's little. And I told you how, you know, in the Air Force they had to buy bonds. And you had to have, now like, John would sign you, if he wasn't married, as his co-owner. And before he came out of service, they spent all his bonds and bought washer and dryer. They were the first persons, black people in Sandusky, to have a washer and dryer. When he went to ask for his money, well, we bought, and I don't know how she explained it to him, and he wouldn't go. It was months and months before I could get him to go out to their house after we moved back here. He would not go. Wouldn't go near them. And his clothes, they gave to his two cousins. He had one suit left when he came up here. When he got out of service, my mother gave him some of my brother Jerry's clothes to wear up here to get his, because he had a lot of clothes. And they gave them all to James and Robert in Indianapolis. And Uncle Jim bought him one suit to replace all them clothes. So they treated him pretty bad, didn't they? But he wouldn't go over there. Took me I didn't want to talk him into going. But his aunt felt so bad, but to think that they would do things like that to him. One time he told me he worked all summer at the railroad to get money to go to school when he's gone to high state. And one of Aunt Bibi's sister's sons needed some stuff, and she gave them the money. See, he always used her, because, you know, being underage, you had to have an adult to have even a savings account. And that's what she did. She gave it all to one of them. Gave him all his clothes. It's just like they didn't expect him to come back. No, it took me months to get him to go over there. He just wouldn't go. And she'd call up and why ask him. Had the nerve to ask him why he wouldn't come over, why he didn't come over. He should have just told him. Oh, it's off. It's still on? Oh.
I just turned the light out because it
I
was
don't
getting
know.
real hot. I didn't know if it was going to start putting a hole in the rug.
One time he asked me to start writing, and I think I wrote a half a page once.
He wanted you, to write
He
your
wanted me to
hitches.
write things, you know. And then I came down, and he had his camera, and he never got a chance to do anything.
Yeah. We're glad we got this. Now we have to make our family album with pictures, right?
Well, I'm going to get some pictures ready for you.
Okay.
Because I do have a picture of his mother and his stepmother and some younger pictures, you know. When I told my grandfather, when I got married, and I had a picture of Paul, and it was the school picture, you know, them little ones. And I said, Grandpa, here's his picture. And he looks at that picture and he says, I knew that boy's granddaddy. I said, you did? He said, yep. My grandfather, they came both from Louisville. And he said where they lived, they called Slaughterhouse Alley. And just like Searsville, you know. And he said, Garrett was standing, what did he say his name? He said, he called him by his first name, said was, they were shipping, you know, the way they do down south if they want to get rid of somebody. They were shipping two boys out up north, and Garrett was in the depot, so they shipped him out too. Didn't let him tell his family or anything. And Aunt Rosie and them, when Paul told Aunt Rosie, his aunts, oh no, that wasn't their father. Grandpa was in Indianapolis, so he was sick, and we'd gone over there to let him see Paul, who was a baby. So they wanted to meet him. So we took him over to meet Grandpa, and it was their father. He named all the places where they lived and all that stuff. Paul just laughed. He thought that was so funny because they tried to be society, you know. Well, that didn't have nothing to do with him being shipped out. I mean, that was slave time. Now, see, my grandfather, his mother was his father's slave, and his name must have been Mr. Washington. So that's how Grandpa's name was Washington. I mean, Brown. Well, his name was, I don't know whether the man's name was Brown or George Washington Brown. But Aunt Addie said there was one white son that lived in Indianapolis that looked just like Grandpa. He said he looked just like him. But Louisville's real close to Indianapolis, you know. And she told me that she had 7 cousins that were all over 6 foot tall that lived in Chicago. And she knew their names, but see, we weren't writing anything about, you know, those kind of things then. But I did meet one man, whose name was Charles, and he was my age, and he had a daughter. And we went there. See, my Aunt Addie's husband was a captain in the police force, as Dad's sister, and Aunt Mary, another sister, husband was captain in the police force in Indianapolis. So they knew